a lot of what we've heard so far relates to the process of how you talk, how you communicate, how you exchange information. This is a bit of a specific tool you use in terms of what you talk about. So it's a little bit different in that sense. What is a socioeconomic impact assessment? It is a summary of key infrastructure and social services in a community, as well as some economic data. So what does that mean? In essence, when projects are being proposed, they often have to have environmental studies, water studies, air studies, et cetera, but they also have to do the social side. So you have to go out and you have to say, if we build this plant, this facility, whatever it might be, how will it affect the social structure in the community? Will it add jobs? How will it affect income? Will it add more students to the school? Will it put more pressure on the local RCMP and policing services? That's what gets contained in these processes. Now, I would love to have a quick show of hands. Who has actually ever read one of these? See, I knew it. I actually have a little note in one of, oh, I got two people in the back. Alice, you had to edit it, probably. I actually put a little quote in the bottom that said, if you read this, send me an email. So if someone actually finds it, it's randomly placed in one of the paragraphs. So if you actually read one of my reports, it could. I still haven't gotten email, so I don't think anybody's actually read these things. But why is it useful is because part of what I also do is facilitate synergy groups. And so once you've worked through that process of how you're going to talk and what you talk about is a big part of it. And you often start with a blank slate. And you're like, well, gosh, what do we have issues about? Well, I'm worried about the dust from the trucking. And I'm worried about the air emissions from the plant or whatever it might be. I'm worried about wildlife movements. So what's in these socioeconomic assessments? Well, gosh, it's a whole bunch of data on roads, traffic volumes, difficult intersections that the RCMP or the EMS people have identified as that's a dangerous corner. There's health services information. We talk to the people who run the local clinics, the local hospitals, and they tell you how busy are they? Can they handle the volume of patients they have? Do they need more doctors? All of that's in there. Police, RCMP, all this data is in there. You go to the schools. The reports also contain information where you sit down with the principals and the school board people and you say, how are things working? You know, do you have a problem retaining teachers in this small community? What's the completion rate like for high school students? So it's all in there. All this stuff that people often want to talk about in a synergy group, there's a whole set of data there that's already been collected, and it's public data. So it can be used, and it can help structure. Now, a lot of the times you don't want to necessarily, it depends on the group. Everything's a little different. Sometimes you want to leave it open to the group and let them come up with all the ideas about what's important to them. And that's a good process where they can just go out and whether it's at roundtables and the world cafes that we heard described earlier, and people lay it all out on the table. I'm really upset about this, and I'm really upset, and I'm concerned about that. If you're then looking for a structure, a way to sort of group it together, these socioeconomic impact assessments are really useful. It's already got a bunch of baseline data on a lot of these important issues that people will identify. So the other thing it helps, and Grant mentioned this, the measuring concept. It's good to be able to group the topics and issues together, but it's also really important to be able to figure out, are you moving in the right direction? You know, are we making things better? Or are they getting worse? These studies have stuff about how many traffic accidents have there been in certain places, how many visits to the ER room. You know, all this the baseline data is all there, and you can measure against it. And you can actually come up with specific determinants. And this is, to some extent, you probably have all seen the reports, the vital signs reports that the cities put out, all those kind of reports where they are monitoring a certain number of issues that the people in the community said, gosh, if our city's a great city to live in, these are the things it would have, right? It's got some jobs, it's got some parks, it's got all the stuff. This is the same idea. You can do that with those synergy groups, and you can come up with little measuring sticks, ways to monitor whether you're making progress and moving the community closer to what they would like to see. Now, not all projects need SEIAs, but over the last 30 years, they've been pretty common. There would be few communities that you would not be able to find one for. So if you're looking for one, ask the local companies. They may have a copy of this because it's usually them that has to pay for it. So the proponent of the project has to hire the consultants to do the work. I am a consultant. Anybody looking to build a project, I'm happy to do the socioec assessments. You can contact your local regulator. Some of the socioec assessments are done for Alberta Environment. Some go to the Alberta Utilities Commission. Some go to the National Energy Board. If it's on federal land, it might be with Environment Canada. You can find this data out there, and it's public data. And if you can't, call me, because there's only about 8 or 10 of the of us in the province that do this work, and we all know each other. And if I wasn't involved with the study in some way, I probably know who was and can help you find those copies, because it's public information. It's really nicely organized, and it's got that baseline that you can start. And if you do want to do that monitoring, it helps you group it in the first place. And then if you want to do the monitoring, it gives you some of that baseline to say, hey, things have gotten better or things have not gotten better. That's it. Thank you very much.